Welcome back to Zengin Movies. If you love classic films, epic action, and behind-the-scenes secrets, you're in the right place. Today, we're strapping in for a high-speed ride through the skies as we uncover 20 mind-blowing facts about Top Gun, 1986. This movie wasn't just a blockbuster. It was a game-changer that made aviation cool, skyrocketed Tom Cruise to superstardom, and left an unforgettable mark on pop culture. But did you know it was inspired by a real article? Or that the US Navy saw a 500% spike in recruitment after its release? Buckle up, hit that like button, and let's take off into the world of Top Gun. Number 1. Inspired by a real article. Believe it or not, Top Gun wasn't just a Hollywood creation, it was inspired by a real article. In May 1983, California Magazine published an in-depth piece titled Top Guns, written by journalist Ehud Yoneh. This article gave a thrilling behind-the-scenes look at the U.S. Navy's elite fighter weapons school, better known as Top Gun. Producers Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer stumbled upon this article and were immediately hooked. They saw the potential for a high-octane action film filled with adrenaline, rivalry, and, of course, cool fighter jets. They quickly bought the rights to the article, and from there, Top Gun started to take flight. But here's the kicker. Many of the film's most iconic elements, from the intense aerial combat scenes to the rivalries between pilots, were all inspired by real-life stories from the article. In fact, some actual pilots who trained at Top Gun even claim they saw glimpses of their own experiences in the movie. So while Top Gun is pure Hollywood entertainment, its roots are grounded in reality, thanks to one groundbreaking magazine article that captured the thrill of flying at Mach speed. Number 2. The U.S. Navy boosted recruitment. When Top Gun hit theaters in 1986, it wasn't just a box office hit, it became a full-blown cultural phenomenon. Audiences were mesmerized by the high-speed dogfights, the intense rivalries, and of course, the ultra-cool naval aviators. But here's the mind-blowing part. After the movie's release, the U.S. Navy saw a 500% increase in applications from young men wanting to become fighter pilots. The movie made flying F-14 Tomcats look like the ultimate dream job, and thousands of young men lined up at Navy recruitment offices hoping to be the next Maverick. The Navy even set up recruitment booths outside movie theaters, handing out brochures to excited fans as they walked out, pumped up from the adrenaline rush. Before Top Gun, becoming a naval aviator wasn't exactly the first career choice for most people. But thanks to Tom Cruise and those epic aerial battles, the Navy suddenly had more applicants than they knew what to do with. And even today, many real-life pilots credit Top Gun as the movie that inspired them to take to the skies. One blockbuster movie, a 500% spike in recruitment, and a new generation of real-life Top Guns. Now that's some serious Hollywood impact. Number 3. Tom Cruise wasn't the first choice. Can you imagine anyone but Tom Cruise as Maverick? Well, believe it or not, he wasn't the first choice. The producers originally wanted Matthew Modine for the role. Modine, known for Full Metal Jacket, turned it down because he didn't agree with the film's pro-military tone. So the role was still up for grabs. Enter Tom Cruise. Producers saw his rising star power and offered him the part. But Cruise didn't just take the role, he fully committed. He even trained with real Navy pilots to prepare for the film. And the rest? Well, it's movie history. Tom Cruise became Maverick, and Top Gun launched him into superstardom. Can you imagine Top Gun without that iconic Cruise smile? Yeah, me neither. Number 4. Real fighter jets were used. The intense dogfights and high-speed chases in Top Gun weren't just Hollywood magic. Those were real F-14 Tomcats, straight from the U.S. Navy. Instead of relying on models or special effects, the filmmakers partnered with the Navy, using actual fighter jets to make the aerial sequences as realistic as possible. And here's the wild part. Many of the stunts weren't performed by actors, but by real Navy pilots. These pros pulled off insane maneuvers at speeds over 1,000 miles per hour, giving us those breathtaking shots that made audiences feel like they were right there in the cockpit. This commitment to authenticity set Top Gun apart from most action films of the era. The breathtaking aerial scenes weren't just visually impressive, they were grounded in real Navy flight tactics, making Top Gun one of the most immersive aviation films ever. This level of realism is why Top Gun still holds up today, capturing the thrill of naval aviation like no other film can. Number 5. The famous call signs. Were real. We all know the iconic call signs from Top Gun: Maverick, Iceman, Viper, and Jester. But what's cool is these names weren't just made up for the film. They were inspired by real-life nicknames used by actual Navy pilots. In the Navy, pilots often get unique call signs, usually based on their personalities or something memorable about them. For example, Viper is a reference to the sharp, quick qualities of a fighter pilot, while Jester was likely inspired by a pilot known for his witty humor. The filmmakers wanted to bring authenticity to the movie, so they worked with Navy pilots to make sure the call signs reflected real practices. In fact, a lot of the Top Gun call signs were directly pulled from actual aviators. These call signs became just as legendary as the characters themselves, adding another layer of realism to the film. They're not just cool nicknames, they're a part of Navy culture. Number 6. Val Kilmer. Didn't want to be in the movie. We all know Val Kilmer as the unforgettable Iceman in Top Gun, but did you know he almost didn't take the role at all? That's right. Kilmer originally didn't want to be in the movie. At first, Kilmer wasn't sold on the film. He had some reservations about the role and the movie's focus on the military. But after a memorable audition, he changed his mind and jumped on board. It was his audition that really sealed the deal. Kilmer impressed everyone with his portrayal of Iceman's icy cool demeanor and sharp wit, convincing the producers and director that he was the perfect choice for the role. Iceman went on to become one of the most iconic characters in the film, with his cool, calculated rivalry with Maverick. Who knew that the guy who didn't even want the role would end up being so legendary? Number 7. The Danger Zone. Song wasn't the first choice. We all know that Top Gun's Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins became an anthem of the 80s. But did you know it wasn't the first choice for the song that would define the film? That's right. Danger Zone was legendary, but before Kenny Loggins landed the gig, the filmmakers considered other bands like Toto and REO Speedwagon for the iconic track. Toto, known for their classic hits like Africa, and REO Speedwagon, famous for Keep On Loving You, were both in the running to contribute a song to the film. But ultimately, it was Loggins who nailed the high-energy, adrenaline-pumping vibe they were looking for. Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone became an instant classic, perfectly capturing the intense, high-stakes world of naval aviation. And now, nearly 40 years later, it's still one of the most iconic songs to ever come out of a movie. While Toto and REO Speedwagon would have been great, there's no doubt that Danger Zone is now inseparable from Top Gun, an unforgettable pairing that will go down in movie history. Number 8. Maverick's iconic jacket had a hidden detail. Maverick's bomber jacket is one of the most iconic pieces of clothing in movie history, right? But did you know there's more to it than just looking cool? That's right. The jacket wasn't just a random costume choice. It actually features patches from real Navy missions, adding a layer of authenticity to Maverick's character. For example, the United States Navy patch and VF-1 squadron patch are both actual emblems from real Navy fighter squadrons. The Top Gun patch itself is also a nod to the elite fighter pilot training school, further solidifying Maverick's connection to the Navy's aviation elite. The attention to detail was all about making Maverick's character feel grounded in reality. This wasn't just a Hollywood fighter pilot. Maverick was meant to represent the men and women who serve in the Navy, and that bomber jacket was a subtle but important way of showcasing that. So next time you watch Top Gun, take a closer look at that jacket. What may seem like just a cool fashion statement is actually a tribute to the real heroes who inspire it. Number 9. The bar scene. Was based on a real tradition. You know that legendary bar scene where Maverick and Goose get up on stage and serenade the women with "You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin'"? Well, believe it or not, that wasn't just a Hollywood invention. In fact, the tradition of naval aviators singing to women in bars is a real part of Navy culture. It's a well-known tradition among fighter pilots to sing in bars to break the ice and have a little fun. While it's not always "you've lost that lovin' feelin'," it's definitely a tradition rooted in camaraderie and a bit of friendly mischief. For aviators, it's a way to bond with their fellow pilots, celebrate the thrill of the skies, and maybe even catch the attention of a few admirers along the way. So, next time you watch that scene, just know it's a piece of Navy history on screen. And who knows, maybe there are still some aviators out there singing their hearts out in bars today. Number 10. The movie had no CGI. Let's talk about one of the most jaw-dropping aspects of Top Gun, its flight scenes. Believe it or not, every single one of those thrilling aerial stunts was done with real planes. No CGI, no digital tricks, just pure, adrenaline-fueled action. In an era where CGI and green screens rule, Top Gun stands as one of the last great practical effect action films. All those heart-pounding dogfights, the intense jet maneuvers, they were filmed with actual F-14 Tomcats, real pilots, and real high-speed action. The filmmakers didn't rely on computer-generated imagery to create those incredible shots. They put cameras in the cockpit, strapped in the actors, and let real pilots do what they do best. This kind of authenticity added a raw energy to the movie that's hard to replicate in today's CGI-heavy world. So, when you're watching those high-flying dogfights and Maverick pulls off that insane maneuver, just remember, no computers were involved. It was all real. And that's part of why Top Gun still feels so thrilling and visceral today. Number 11. Tom Cruise wasn't allowed to fly an F-14. You may think that after all the high-flying stunts Maverick pulls off, Tom Cruise must have been in control of those F-14 Tomcats. But here's the catch. Cruise wasn't actually allowed to pilot the iconic fighter jet himself. Now, Cruise did get a chance to train in smaller planes, which helped him look the part in the movie. But when it came to the F-14 Tomcat, the U.S. Navy drew the line. Why? Well, the F-14 is a powerful, highly complex fighter jet, and flying it requires years of specialized training. While Cruise had to leave the actual piloting to the Navy's experienced aviators, he did get to experience the thrill of flight in other aircraft, giving him that genuine Maverick look of excitement and intensity. So, while Tom Cruise's Maverick may seem like a real jet pilot in the movie, the Navy's strict safety measures made sure that only the professionals were behind the controls of those powerful F-14s. Number 12. The film's director was fined for an epic shot. Now, here's a fascinating behind-the-scenes story that proves just how far the filmmakers went to get the perfect shot. Director Tony Scott was so dedicated to creating Top Gun's breathtaking visuals that he didn't mind breaking a few rules, and even paying a steep price. The U.S. Navy charged Top Gun a hefty $25,000 per hour for the privilege of filming on their aircraft carriers. But that's not where the story ends. There's one particular moment that cost the production even more. At one point, Tony Scott demanded the perfect sunset shot, so much so that he delayed a Navy ship for several hours just to capture it. As you can imagine, the Navy wasn't thrilled about the delay. And here's the kicker. The delay ended up costing the production a fine. The Navy imposed a penalty on Scott for the extended shooting time, which meant the director's commitment to getting the perfect shot literally came with a price. But it was all worth it. The stunning sunset shots added an iconic visual style to Top Gun, and we got one of the most memorable and breathtaking moments in the film. Number 13. Goose's death was based on a real incident. One of the most heartbreaking moments in Top Gun is the tragic death of Goose, Maverick's best friend and wingman. What you might not know is that this devastating scene was actually inspired by real-life events. The accident that leads to Goose's death, where his ejection seat malfunctioned during a high-speed jet maneuver, was based on real incidents where fighter pilots experienced faulty ejections. It's a chilling and tragic part of military aviation that, while rare, has cost the lives of real pilots. In the world of military aviation, ejection seats are a critical safety feature, but they don't always work as intended. In some cases, pilots have been seriously injured or killed during the ejection process due to the extreme forces involved. While the film dramatizes the moment for emotional impact, the inspiration behind Goose's death serves as a reminder of the very real risks faced by those who serve as fighter pilots in the U.S. Navy. It adds a layer of authenticity and depth to the story, showing the dangers of the high-flying world Maverick and Goose inhabit. Goose's death not only changed Maverick's life but also served as a turning point in the film, showing the human cost of the glamorous world of fighter jets and adding a sense of realism to the high-octane action of Top Gun. Number 14. The love story was added later. While Top Gun is known for its high-flying action and intense rivalries, did you know that one of the film's most iconic elements, the romance between Maverick and Charlie, wasn't part of the original plan? That's right. Test audiences loved the chemistry between Tom Cruise's Maverick and Kelly McGillis's Charlie, but they wanted more. After seeing an early cut of the film, the producers decided to give the audience what they were asking for. To make the romance feel more substantial, additional scenes were filmed between Maverick and Charlie after the principal shooting had wrapped. These added moments helped deepen their relationship, giving the film that perfect balance between high-stakes action and emotional connection. The romance not only served to give Maverick a personal stake in the story, but also helped humanize him as a character. As viewers, we see Maverick struggle with his emotions, not just in the skies, but in his relationship with Charlie, who also challenges him to grow. Of course, the chemistry between Maverick and Charlie became one of the most memorable aspects of Top Gun, further cementing the film's status as a classic. Number 15. The cast underwent intense training. Want to know just how dedicated the cast of Top Gun was to making the film as authentic as possible? Well, they didn't just memorize lines and fly on camera. They actually trained with real fighter pilots. Tom Cruise, Val Kilmer, and the rest of the cast had to undergo rigorous flight training to convincingly portray elite Navy pilots. The actors didn't just pretend to be pilots, they actually went up in the air. In total, the actors spent several months in the skies, working with real U.S. Navy fighter pilots. They learned the basics of flying, the ins and outs of the aircraft, and even how to handle high G-force maneuvers. The training wasn't just for show either. It gave the actors a deeper understanding of the physical and mental challenges fighter pilots face. Plus, it made the aerial sequences in Top Gun all the more thrilling because the actors were in the cockpit for real. It's no surprise that the chemistry between the characters feels so genuine. After all, they spent weeks learning how to operate fighter jets together, creating bonds that would translate into their on-screen relationships. This intense training helped Top Gun stand out as one of the most realistic, adrenaline-pumping action films of its time, thanks to the commitment of the cast and their desire to fly as close to the real thing as possible. Number 16. If you've ever watched Top Gun, you know that Val Kilmer's character, Iceman, is full of unforgettable moments, none more iconic than his signature chomping mouth gesture. But here's the twist. It wasn't written in the script. In fact, Val Kilmer came up with the move on the spot during filming. Kilmer was known for his improvisational skills, and when the time came for his character to throw some shade at Maverick, he decided to add that quick snap of his teeth, a gesture that would go on to define his cool, competitive character. The chomp was Kilmer's subtle way of showing Iceman's dominance and confidence, as if to say, "I'm in control here, Maverick." It wasn't rehearsed, just a natural, in-the-moment addition that became legendary. It's a small detail, but it adds so much to Iceman's character, giving him that sharp, icy edge that made him the perfect rival to Maverick. And what's even cooler? It turned into one of the most memorable gestures in movie history. Number 17. The film was a box office giant. You've seen the iconic dogfights, the high-flying action, and the unforgettable soundtrack, but did you know that Top Gun was more than just a cultural phenomenon? It was a bona fide box office giant. In 1986, Top Gun soared to new heights, grossing over $357 million worldwide, making it the highest-grossing movie of that year. That's not just a hit, that's a blockbuster on another level. With a modest budget of $15 million, the movie's success at the box office was massive, outperforming other big hits of the year like Crocodile Dundee and Aliens. What made it such a success? Well, it had everything. A gripping story, jaw-dropping aerial stunts, and the kind of magnetic performances from Tom Cruise and the entire cast that made fans flock to theaters. It wasn't just a movie, it was an experience. But Top Gun wasn't just a box office hit for the year. It went on to become a cultural touchstone, influencing everything from fashion to music and making fighter jets, aviator sunglasses, and the call sign Maverick forever iconic. So, while Top Gun may have been the highest-grossing film of 1986, its impact has lasted far beyond that, making it one of the most enduring movies of all time. Number 18. A sequel. Took over 30 years to happen. When Top Gun blasted its way into theaters in 1986, fans were hooked. But little did they know, they'd have to wait over 30 years for a sequel. Yes, you heard that right. While fans dreamed of a return to the skies, Top Gun 2 was stuck in development hell for decades. After the immense success of the original, the idea of a sequel was floated multiple times, but it just never took off. For years, Tom Cruise expressed interest in revisiting the role of Maverick, but there was no clear direction for the film. With changes in technology and the entertainment industry, the sequel's development faced several setbacks. Plus, Tom Cruise wasn't just going to make a sequel for the sake of it. It had to be something special. But then came 2020. After years of anticipation, Top Gun, Maverick was finally set to take flight, with Tom Cruise reprising his role as the legendary fighter pilot. The wait was almost over, and fans couldn't contain their excitement. The movie was released in 2022, and it was worth the wait. Not only did it feature stunning aerial sequences, but it also explored Maverick's legacy, dealing with the passage of time, and introduced a new generation of fighter pilots, including Miles Teller as Goose's son, Bradley. The sequel didn't just live up to expectations. It exceeded them, becoming a massive hit with both critics and audiences, and proving that sometimes great things really do come to those who wait. Number 19. The U.S. Navy helped with the script. When you're making a movie about elite Navy pilots, it's no surprise that you need some input from the real-life experts. And that's exactly what happened with Top Gun. The U.S. Navy played a major role in making sure the film was as authentic as possible. They didn't just provide the jets and pilots, no, they took a much deeper dive into the production. The Navy suggested key changes to the script, especially to ensure that their procedures and the life of a fighter pilot were represented accurately. They wanted to make sure that the on-screen actions, like how pilots communicate, how they engage in combat, and the overall atmosphere of Navy operations, matched the reality of life in the cockpit. In fact, the Navy's involvement wasn't just a suggestion, it was crucial for the film's authenticity. They even offered consultations on certain scenes to make sure everything from the military jargon to the operations on the aircraft carrier rang true. For example, the Navy was instrumental in guiding how the pilots should behave in the cockpit and how to realistically portray the dangerous stunts that were performed. Without their guidance, the movie wouldn't have captured the adrenaline and intensity that audiences loved. And let's be honest, without the Navy's input, Top Gun might not have been the iconic, adrenaline-pumping experience we know today. Their guidance ensured that the film not only entertained but respected the real heroes of the skies. Number 20. It made aviator sunglasses. Iconic. Aviator sunglasses, those sleek, shiny lenses with a thin metal frame, were already popular, but Top Gun truly turned them into an iconic fashion statement. Tom Cruise's character, Maverick, made those sunglasses his trademark look. From the very first moment he steps on screen, rocking those classic aviators, they became synonymous with cool, confident pilots. Before Top Gun, aviators were popular with military personnel and pilots, but after the film's release, they exploded in mainstream fashion. Suddenly, they were everywhere, from rock stars to civilians, from high school students to office workers. The trend didn't just last for a year or two. It continued well into the decades following Top Gun. The aviator sunglasses became a symbol of not just style, but of that cool, rebellious, and daredevil spirit that Maverick brought to the screen. And guess what? These sunglasses are still just as iconic today. Whether you're hitting the runway, the beach, or just out on a sunny day, you can't help but think of Maverick and his legendary shades. And there you have it. 20 mind-blowing facts about Top Gun. From its real-life inspirations to the legendary characters and unforgettable moments, this movie didn't just dominate the box office in 1986. It cemented its place in pop culture history. Whether it's the heart-pounding aerial stunts, the memorable lines, or the legacy it left on fashion and pop culture, Top Gun continues to influence movies and inspire new generations of fans. And let's not forget, we still can't get that danger zone out of our heads. So, did you learn something new about this classic? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed these fun facts. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to Zengin Movies for more amazing behind-the-scenes insights into your favorite films. Until next time, keep your wings level and your need for speed alive. See you in the skies.